Hi, I'm Mark, and in this video I wanted to give you 5 tips of things that absolute beginners should know. And the reason for that is I've been thinking back to when I first started, and things when I was even just learning my very first chords. What would I go back? What advice would I give myself if I could go back now? So the first thing to know is, if you're an absolute beginner, it's harder than it looks. Guitar playing, when you see Slash or Hendrix or any of the great guitar players play, they make it look absolutely effortless. But the truth is, certainly when you first start out, it's really, really hard. It's got a really steep learning curve. So you just kind of have to accept that and then get on with it and practice. So the first one is, it's harder than it looks. The second one is that your fingers will hurt. There's no two ways about this. When you first pick up a guitar and you start forming your first chords, it hurts your fingers. It's a physical thing that hurts. What happens is, the more you practice, the more you kind of push through that, you get calluses on your fingers, and the tips of your fingers end up going quite hard. And then after a while it becomes easier and easier, and the pain gets less, and then you get to the point where the pain's not there at all. And that happens relatively soon, depending on how much you practice each day. Obviously, don't practice until your fingers are bleeding, or you're going to give yourself serious injury, or it's extremely painful. But you should just have to accept that there's a certain amount of discomfort when you first start playing, and your fingers will hurt, and everybody goes through that. The third thing is that there are no shortcuts. It doesn't matter how many books you buy, how many YouTube videos you watch, how many lessons you take, or anything like that. None of that is actually going to improve you as a guitar player. The only thing that actually does improve you as a guitar player is fingers on the fretboard. And that's because playing guitar is mostly muscle memory. It's about teaching your fingers to move in a certain way. When I started learning, I really struggled with the G chord, how to play that G chord. I could, after, a month or two, I could maybe move between, say, an A and a D, but then moving to that G I found just near impossible. It took me like nearly 6 months. And what happens is, after a while, just practice and practice, it just clicks into place one day and it happens. It's kind of like when you learn to drive. Okay, so when you learn to drive and you're going down the road and the instructor says turn left, you have to think, okay, mirrors, signal, slow the car down, get the position in the road, clutch down, look in the mirrors, change gear, turn the wheel, bring the clutch up on the new gear, and you have to do like 20 different minuscule little steps in order to turn the corner. Now, what happens is, after you've been driving a while, all of those things kind of become automatic, and you just think turn left, turn right, drive straight, slow down, or wherever it is, and you don't have to think about all the minuscule little actions that need to take place. And that's just because your body learns to move in a certain way. And it's exactly the same with playing guitar. You start to learn a G chord, and at first you think, G, okay, I've got to put this finger here, I've got to put that finger there, I've got to move this finger here, I've got to make sure that I'm playing them with my fingertips, I've got to make sure that each string is ringing out. You've got to do all these things. After a while, you just think, play a G chord, and all those other things just kind of fall into place. It's kind of the way it is. It's muscle memory. There's no shortcut to it. You just have to spend the time, fingers on the fretboard. The fourth tip is that every guitar player went through this. Okay, no matter who your guitar hero is, Slash, Marc Tremonti, Eric Clapton, whoever it is. There was a day when Jimi Hendrix had to sit down and learn a G chord. There was a day when Jimi Hendrix had to learn how to play a D chord. It doesn't matter who it is. We've all been through this. Every guitar player goes through learning the chords, learning the scales, learning how to fret properly, how to solo and do all these different things. We've all been through it. Everybody goes through it, and nobody kind of was born just being a fantastic guitar player. Everybody has to go through this. So if you're learning and you're struggling with something, don't get discouraged by it. Everybody's been through it. Everybody's had those same struggles, and you just kind of have to push on through it. So after all of those kind of things of saying how hard it is and how your fingers hurt and how it's going to struggle and all these kind of things, the fifth tip, it's not really a tip, but it's the fifth thing to say is it does get easier. It gets a lot easier as you play, as you get the calluses on your fingers, as you build up the muscle memory, the guitar playing actually gets easier. It's a steep learning curve, but then it gets easier as it goes on. And when it starts to get easier, it starts to get fun. Once you start playing with a band, once you start jamming with friends, once you start playing along to records or jam tracks or whatever, playing guitar is a huge amount of fun. So I hope I've encouraged you to stick with it. If you're having any of those difficulties, don't worry. We all went through it, and you just have to practice, and there's no substitute for just spending the time with your fingers on the fretboard. So with that, I hope you found this useful. Thanks to everybody who subscribes. Thanks to everybody who supports me on Patreon. I'll see you again soon.